Welcome for number 18, and this is part 3, days 13 to 18 for the great battle of Kurukshetra. So on day 13, Duryodhana summoned King Bhagadatta, who had thousands of gigantic elephants in his stable, and he was also considered the strongest warrior on this planet at that time in elephant warfare. So he was a formidable enemy. And he was an exceptionally brave old warrior. Arjuna's brother Bhima stepped into battle and fought these huge elephants. And at one point, it appeared that Bhima may have been killed by a mighty elephant. But he stood back up and began fighting with his mighty mace. Arjuna then arrived and fought the king Bhagadatta himself and eventually pierced his body with arrows. The old warrior fell down dead. Later that day, Arjuna received the news that his son Abhimanyu had been killed in a manner that was against all the rules of warfare. Upon hearing this news, Arjuna vowed that before the setting of the sun on day 14, he would kill that Kaurava prince who had slain his son. Or failing this, he would enter a fire. The vow had been set. Day 14. Arjuna began this day by searching out that Kaurava prince. But the Kaurava army had heard of his vow. If they could protect that prince until sunset, Arjuna would have to fulfill his vow. So they were tightly protecting this prince. But finally, late in the afternoon, almost at the last moment, Arjuna found the prince and fought a powerful battle with him. Then, taking careful aim, Arjuna shot an arrow, cutting off the Kaurava prince's head. Day 15. This battle on day 15 was heralded as the most terrible of all the days. Drona was so angry, he seemed like an incarnation of fire. So a spectacular duel was fought between Arjuna and Drona. And they both used divine astras, which are guided by mantras, but neither could defeat the other. Finally, Drona released the Brahma astra. The earth shook in fear and the sky became dark. Arjuna immediately released his Brahma astra, and the two astras met in outer space and destroyed each other. The Pandavas knew there was no way to defeat Drona except if he heard that his son had been killed in battle. He would become so disheartened, he would have no drive left in him to fight. So this rumour began amongst the soldiers and travelled from soldier to soldier that Drona's son, Ashwatthama, was dead. When Drona heard this news, he gave up his fighting spirit and was soon killed by one of the Pandava generals. The Kauravas had now lost two chief commanders, Bhishma and Drona. On day 16, Duryodhana appointed Karna as the next commander of his army. Karna had arrived on the battle and he immediately inflicted heavy damage on the Pandava army, causing the Pandava soldiers to flee. But on day 16, Arjuna's brother Bhima fought with Duryodhana's eldest brother named Dushasana. Bhima caught hold of Dushasana's right arm, ripped it from his shoulder, and then using that dismembered arm, Bhima tore apart Dushasana's chest and killed him. It was a terrible sight even for these blood-hardened warriors. Duryodhana was plunged into despair at the death of his brother. Day 17 dawned and the skies were red. Khan promised, "Today I will fight an unforgettable battle with that famous hero Arjuna. Either I will slay him or I will be slain by him." As the Kaurava and Pandava armies moved towards each other, dreadful signs were seen by all. Cloudless thunder resounded from the sky, and a shower of stones fell. Fierce winds blew in the Kauravas' faces, their horses shed tears, and jackals howled. After the great battle was continuing, Krishna drove Arjuna's chariot towards Khan. When the two finally faced each other, Arjuna struck Khan on the chest with a group of 6 powerful steel shafts, then 12, then 20, then 50. And at the same time he killed 400 elephants with their riders, 1,000 horsemen and their horses, and 8,000 infantry. Nothing was stopping Arjuna. For a long time Khan and Arjuna battled while the other Pandavas and Kauravas watched from a distance, and all were astonished at what they saw. Finally, Arjuna drew his Gandiva bow back to his ear, took careful aim with his arrow, released the arrow, and it struck Khan in his neck and severed his head. Duryodhana's last hope for victory was shattered. But the Pandavas cheered and blew their conch shells. Bhima danced about, slapping his arms in joy. Day 18. As the sun rose on day 18, Duryodhana appointed Shalya as the commander-in-chief. Shalya, having abandoned any hope of returning victorious or even alive out of this great battle, accepted Duryodhana's order, and he rode into battle. He confronted King Yudhisthira, and the contest between those two was like 2 tigers in a jungle. After much fighting, Yudhisthira took up a large golden dart, and uttering mantras, he hurled that weapon with all his force, crying out, "Shalya, you are dead." The dart flew towards Shalya like a meteor and struck him in the chest. It actually passed through his body and entered the earth. Shalya fell to the ground like a mountain smashed by a thunderbolt. Yudhisthira and his brothers sent up triumphant shouts of victory, while the Kauravas cried in anguish. Some of Duryodhana's warriors fought on until they were killed, but many of the remaining Kaurava army fled in terror. Seeing himself all alone, Duryodhana now fled the battlefield. He jumped from his chariot and ran into a surrounding forest until he reached a large lake. He entered the water and sank down under its depths to hide from the Pandavas. Day 18 and the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra. Namaste.